Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things Kansas City. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to be calling myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Today's podcast guest I am so excited about because I randomly ran into them in real life, and that's how all the great things happen in life, right? They also are experts in one of my very favorite hobbies, which is drinking wine. Today, we welcome the owners of Willow Springs Mercantile to the podcast, and that is Jim and Daphne Bowman. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so tell me about the shop. For those that have never heard of it, those that have never been to Excelsior Springs, what do you guys do at Willow Spring? What's your expertise? What's your specialty?
So our claim to fame and what we started our business on was basically wanting to showcase the largest selection of quality Missouri wines in the region. And so when we started, we had a few small wineries and we built that up, and now we have about probably 300 different Missouri wines from 25 different wineries, give or take. And since then, we've added wines, beers, distilled spirits, and craft gourmet food items, things that complement and accessorize wine. And then additionally, we have a small little basement bistro, which is where we're sitting right now. And we serve just fun little lunches that go along with wine.
How did you get into this? Like, what made you say we are going to specialize in only local wines and local goods?
I'm going to let Jim take over. He tells the story well.
I was talking to Mrs. Pirtle from Pirtle Winery up in Weston, Missouri, and sharing with her that I don't really like wine at all. And so she said, "You come up to the winery and I'll find something for you." And so I met Mrs. Pirtle at the winery, and she gave me like the personal tour. And if you ever met Mrs. Pirtle, you realize she will always win. So she converted us into becoming wine people, or Missouri wine people. And then she shared with us that we should start selling wine in the shop. And we balked at that for a little bit, and she won again. And so we started selling wine. And then a couple years in, I decided I wanted to put vineyard in my yard. And Mr. Pirtle told me that I should put 100 vines in my front yard. And he proceeded to root the vines and get us started with a vineyard in our yard. And so that's sort of how we can pretty much give Mr. and Mrs. Pirtle all the credit to getting started with this one.
That is awesome. It's a good name to kind of connect with the roots of your business there. Okay, so I want to tell a story about how I come across you guys, because I was in Excelsior Springs with a girlfriend. It was kind of random. We were staying at the Elms, which is, why a lot of people go to Excelsior, I think, and decided we needed some wine for this girls' night. So hopped on Google, looked for a wine store, and found you guys. So we walk in, and then as soon as we walked in, it was clear this is not just some liquor store. It's like very homey feeling. It feels different. As we started looking at the labels, we kind of looked at each other like, oh no, this is only Missouri wine. We got to go. But then Daphne came up and was like, no, don't run. And we were very quickly proven wrong. We went home with a bunch of bottles and we loved every single one. And I was so happy to be proven wrong, because we kind of came into it thinking Missouri wine is only for sweet wine drinkers. So does this happen a lot to you guys? Do you have people that come in with a complete wrong attitude about it? And what should people know if they were in that position?
It happens fairly often. The Elms brings us a very nice regional group of people, and a lot of them are wine lovers, and they love wine from all over the world. So when they walk in our store and realize very quickly that we only sell wine from our state, it kind of takes them off guard. But what we love is creating kind of a conversion and taking people from maybe another region of the country and showcasing what we do in our state and helping people understand we have that same culture. You just have to enjoy the wine that we do for the style that it is. And so many times we tell people, most people have tasted Missouri wine that their sweet wine drinker brought to a party. And so they assume that all Missouri wine is sweet wine. Well, we have wine in every spectrum: red, white, pink, dry, oaked, unoaked, sweet, semi-sweet, semi-dry. And so it's really fun once we are able to establish just a few minutes of conversation to find out where people are in their wine walk. And then we know pretty much all that we have on our shelves. I tell people we have over 300 bottles, and we've probably drank every one of them more than once. So good or bad, we like our wine. We enjoy drinking it, and we enjoy sharing it with people. But what we enjoy doing is, once we find out the style of wine people like, bringing that style to what we offer in Missouri. So I feel confident that we have made a lot of converts over the years, and it's actually been a lot of fun kind of taking someone who never had a Missouri wine that really fit their palate and finding multiple wines that they could enjoy with family and friends, not just here, but wherever they are.
Yes. One of the reds that you recommended to me, I opened recently for friends and didn't say anything about it, just kind of poured in. No one said anything. And when I was like, that's a Missouri wine, they were like, oh, what? Like they could not believe me. So why do you think, why do you think Missouri wines have such a bad reputation? Like, I don't know if you remember this, but there was even a joke about it on SNL last year or the year before on Saturday Night Live when they were like, oh, Missouri wines. Yes, yeah, they were like completely making fun of it. I think it was Heidi Gardner, 'cause she's local to Kansas City. But you mentioned kind of people experiencing them by a sweet drinker bringing them to parties. What else do you think is a factor in kind of giving this reputation to Missouri wine?
90% of the people that walk in, and please don't quote me on that figure, but a large percentage of the people that walk into the wineries are looking for something sweet. So just by default, the wineries have more sweet wines on their profile than they do dries. They just don't sell as much dry.
The sweet pays the bills.
It pays the bills. And so
in this region.
So I just think that there's just more sweet wine out there from our state than there are high quality dries. That doesn't mean they're not good high quality dries. There's just not as many. And so you just sort of get that rap of it being Kool-Aid, even though it's really not.
I also find, when you think about, like in Spain, where you're visiting, or in Europe, they're on 8th and 9th generation winemakers. Children are being brought up in a wine culture. Their great-great-grandparents have done it. Their great-grandparents, their grandparents, their parents. And so there are other regions who have a longer running wine history have kind of elevated to the culture of wine. If you think about Missouri, we're still a fairly young wine culture. We're now starting to see 2nd and 3rd generation winemakers. And so things are elevating and they're changing. But our wine culture is young, and we do joke we still live in sweet tea country. And so as those sweet tea drinkers start to convert to wine, they're drawn to the sugar initially. And then once you start drinking wine and pairing it with food or enjoying conversation or enjoying it more often, all of a sudden you realize you don't really want to drink it for the sugar. You start to drink it for the flavor. And then once you start drinking it for the flavor, then things begin to change. And then you start looking for nuances in the wine. And so I tell people we're still a fairly young wine culture in general. We're seeing it change, and we're becoming known as the place people like to come to find more like wines that are focused on the quality of the wine and not the sugar of it.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. When I was in your shop, you did point that out. You said, here's the sweet section, here's kind of the medium bodied section, and here's the dry section. And we used to only sell sweet, and now a lot more people are in the middle towards the other end of the spectrum. So it's like, and you know that if you're a wine drinker, you know that if you're trying to get a friend to start drinking wine, you pour them Moscato first, because you're like, here, this is the gateway. This will get you started. But it's interesting to hear that's happening on a larger scale as well. Do you think that is improving kind of the quality of wines local people are wanting to produce too, kind of as the collective palate improves, then the product improves as well?
Yeah,
We would hope so.
I would say yeah.
We hope so.
Because I mean, sometimes the folks that like sweeter wine don't necessarily drink it for the quality of the wine as much as they just are having fun drinking the sweet wine that tastes really good. But as you're starting to get more and more people drinking more dry things, as they're approaching it for the flavor of the wine, it does make you have to create a more high quality wine. And then also too, I think with the local movement of people wanting to shop local, buy local, farm to table, they're starting to give the wineries a chance too, because they are growing their own fruit, they're doing some things like that. So we're starting to see maybe some world wine drinkers that are now trying to find local wines, and so they're seeking out more of the high quality dry wines too, which and the winemakers love it because they feel like they can really showcase what they can really do when they're making wines with no very little sugar or no sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very interesting. So just kind of to throw some out there for people that are typically like a big label, dry wine, Napa Sonoma kind of wine drinker, what are some of the first ones you recommend for them to try to kind of see that Missouri wine isn't all bad and that there's some really good options that will taste good to them too?
We do really, really, really well with our dry whites and our dry rosés. So I like to share with them a Chardonnay or a Vidal Blanc or a dry rosé because they are more of a gateway into what is out there. Our reds are different, and so sometimes I try to share with them to try dry whites or dry rosés from Missouri first, and then start working towards the reds. And then when we do wine tastings with folks, especially if we're sharing the Missouri State grape, the Norton, we always try to pair with chocolate. And so we sort of like bring in some bitter chocolate and have them try the wine and chocolate to kind of bring them that direction. And then we also share with them, again, kind of like you and I were just talking about Spain, is drink the wine for the region and expect it to taste like the region, not like something that it's not. And then you should enjoy it for what it is and then kind of go from there.
One of the things we always talk about when someone talks about they're looking for a big, Napa cab, and we talk about, well, you're in Missouri. And so while you can get a Napa cab somewhere, if you're really wanting to support the local movement, let's look at a wine that's going to be similar in style, just might not be the same. And so we always say, so when you go to Oregon, do you drink a Napa cab? When you go to Willamette Valley, probably not. When you go to Oregon, you're looking for Pinot Noir because that's what they do well. So we kind of use that information to help people kind of think differently. When you come into Missouri wine, instead of thinking Missouri wine should taste like everything else I drink, we want you to understand Oregon Pinot Noir doesn't taste like California Cab. Washington wines don't taste like California wines. Missouri wines are not going to taste like Oregon or Washington or California. And so once we start helping people understand to enjoy what they have where they are and to think about it a little bit differently, once we're able to help people's mind kind of shift back to, oh, I'm in Missouri, let me kind of open my thought process a little, then all of a sudden it gets a little bit easier to help them convert into supporting the wine industry. And so one of the things that we have found in we enjoy wine from all over the world. But one of the things that we have found in drinking our wine from Italy and France and, wines from Europe is we find that the Missouri wine region is actually more in line with that style. So when I start talking with people, I'll mention that our wines are a little more well-rounded. They're softly balanced. They're lower in alcohol, kind of some of the things that I shared with you the day you were in. And so once I start talking to people, if they've had wines from Italy or France, they're like, oh, I love the Rhone, or, I love this style of wine. Then all of a sudden, when we start sharing these softer, kind of easier to drink wines, they're not thinking I need this bold Napa cab. And so, it's a slow conversion process where we're just trying to help people understand, no matter where you are, enjoy what's there at the time, whether it's your food or your wine. Enjoy the culture that they offer for what it is.
That's really interesting because you guys mentioned I did just get back from Spain, and the kind of, I don't know if it's like their main grape, but the Rioja is the one that they serve at restaurants if you order just like a house red. And it does taste similar to some of the Missouri reds that you guys recommended to me. So that's a really interesting point. It is a lot more well rounded. Uh, this might be kind of getting in the weeds, literally, but what is it about Missouri that makes it really challenging? Like our climate, is it our soil? What makes it so challenging to grow different kinds of grapes here? And kind of the whole winemaking process? Is it just because we have such big fluctuations in temperature, or like, might get really sciencey here, but dumb it down for me.
Mostly just our climate. It proposes some challenges. We have a lot of humidity. We have funguses and bugs, and I can get way too technical if I'm not careful. But one of the biggest challenges that we have is the temperature fluctuations throughout the winter, when we have days in January they're like 65 and 70, and then it drops down to like -4. And it's just really hard on your plants, the grape trunks, and the trunks want to split and different things like that. That's basically the biggest challenges I come across. We have a very small vineyard, and those are some of the things that we come across. Other than that, it's not a whole lot different. I mean, every region's got their issues, so those are the ones that we have to deal with, I guess.
Does that make it more costly to be a wine grower here than somewhere that is a more temperate climate?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we just have to grow varieties that want to grow here, and try not to force too many varieties. I mean, there are just some things that we can't. Not so we can't grow them; they're just harder to grow. But it's just kind of stay within itself. Pick the varieties that grow here, and then try to make the best quality wine out of those varieties that you can grow. And all around the state, it's different. Like in southern part of Missouri, you can grow some things that we can't grow up here. And then if you get north of 36, you're almost to Iowa, and they grow some different things up there. And so it's just a matter of figuring out what grows best in your particular vineyard, and then kind of going from there, and then just stay at it. I mean, vineyard's not rocket science. It's really just out there consistent work. I mean, that's all I can tell you. You just got to get out there every day and just get at it.
That makes sense how you, Daphne, you were saying that we're so young as far as generations, because it's not like you can grow grapes in 3 months. You know, it's this annual seasonal thing. So every year you try different things, but you really only have one chance a year to try things. So that is probably, yeah. So that's kind of exciting though, to see like how much room there is to grow in the future, right?
Yeah, we share with people, like if you think about this from a time standpoint, if you were to drop in a grape that's going to make a dry red wine, by the time you drop it in the ground and you get a bottle of wine, it might be 8 years. So think about that. It takes 4 or 5 years to get production, and then the season to make it, and then 18, 19, 20 months in oak. And then next thing you know, it's 5 years later or 7 years later, and you finally have a bottle of wine. So there's a time lag in there from the get go. So it just takes time to get your fruit production and patience and things like that. It's not like growing a tomato that you get a tomato in 3 months.
Yeah, so interesting. So you kind of mentioned the different regions within Missouri. So I feel like everyone here knows about Herman. Everyone I know has been on a bachelorette party to Herman. But what are some of the other good towns to go to if you're into wine tasting? Like, what are some kind of hidden gems around the state?
Everybody you know has been on a bachelorette trip to Herman. Now we know why we drink sweet wine, because that's what they do. So anyway, other than Herman,
yes,
I had to get back into that.
Exactly.
Other than Herman, the Augusta, just a little bit east of Herman, is awesome. It was the first designated AVA, which is American Viticulture Appellation, in the country. It's absolutely beautiful. It's quaint, got small vineyards, rolling hills. It looks like something you would see in Tuscany, outside of the villas. But it's actually really pretty. The St. Genevieve area is really great. A lot of French influence, some really, really, really big wines. And then right here in our own backyard, we've got great vineyards right around Excelsior Springs, Rayville, Smithville, Platte City. There's some great wineries up here to go visit.
Did you get a chance when you were in town to go to any of the wineries?
No, we were only there for like less than 48 hours. So we had to get our massages in, you know?
But yeah,
We will be back though.
Excelsior Springs.
Yes,
We
yes,
have 3
absolutely.
wineries in Excelsior Springs, and then within 45 minutes we have a handful more.
Definitely need to hit those up. Do you guys know much about the wine scene on the Kansas side? Because we've been really Missouri heavy, but I know that the Metro covers both sides of the state line. So, are there any major differences? Any wineries to point out on the Kansas
I would
side?
be speaking out of context because I really don't know enough about the Kansas wineries. I know that there's a few out there. I'm sure they're working just as hard as everybody in Missouri or Nebraska or wherever is to try to make the best quality wine they can make too. But I can't speak of anything in particular to say go see this or go see that.
It's probably time for us to go explore Kansas.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I'd say so. And then you may or may not know this, but do you know, do they grow mostly the same grapes as us, or is it far enough away that they kind of different ones thrive there?
The ones closer to the Kansas City area would be the ones that I know a little bit more about, and they grow a lot of the same. I mean, our climate's about the same in our area that they grow about the same kinds of things. But out of all honesty, I don't know for sure if they grow something different. Our climate's not that far different. Now, if you get to western Kansas, it may be way different. I don't know, but around this area, it's about.
That makes sense. So where do you hope to see the Missouri wine industry go in the future? Like, what are your dreams? What do you really want to see happen over the next, couple decades here in the Missouri wine industry?
Maybe speaking for both of us, we want to see the continued elevation of the quality of our industry. And then, it would be awesome to see some more vineyards and some more wineries in our state. I know some have since retired since the crazy last few years, and we've got some new wineries coming on board that are doing some pretty cool stuff. And so I think just continuing to grow and evolve and watch quality wines come out of our region and continue to educate the consumer on what it is that we do and why we love it and why more people in and around our region should be a part of supporting the industry.
That's beautiful.
And you?
I don't think I have much else to say. I would just love to see, more wineries continue to making high quality wine out of locally sourced fruit.
Absolutely. Do you guys have a wine club at the shop, or for people that can't get to Excelsior Springs anytime soon, what's the best way for them to kind of get some hands on your wines?
Well, we're kind of old fashioned in that we like to develop relationships. And I know that's probably not always the best business model, but for us, we don't ship. We love when people walk in our door and we get to connect and talk. And so we don't really have an online presence for the alcohol or the wine. We just encourage people to make a trip to our community, stay at the Elms or stay at one of our beautiful bed and breakfasts. We have inns and Airbnbs. The Payne Jailhouse bed and breakfast is an awesome place to stay. And then come in and say hello and let us entertain you.
And we like to share with people too. Please go out and visit the wineries all around our state. We carry not all of them, but quite a bit of them. Once you go out around the state and meet the winemakers, meet the vineyard people, see the wineries, it really helps solidify your opinion on Missouri wines and how good they can be. And then, we're only 30 minutes from Kansas City. Come up and get your wines from us, and kind of go from there.
Yes, absolutely. It's an excuse to make a trip for sure. And obviously you guys have been very intentional with how local you are, not only in your product, but staying in downtown Excelsior Springs, which is darling, by the way. But what has that been like, kind of, being so intentional about being local with your product and just your location, kind of staying put right there in a relatively small town?
Well, it's been good for business, I think.
It's been great.
We've been here 17 and a half years now. And I will tell you, when we first told people we were going to start a Missouri wine shop
in Excelsior
Springs, people were like, you're never going to make it. Like, there's no way you're going to sell enough wine and do what you need to do to survive. And so we're still here. And sadly, some of those other locations outside of our region have not been able to make it. But we've been very blessed being intentional and just continuing to encourage people to support what's in and around our state. And the cool thing for what we do is not all of our wines are through distributors. So a lot of our wines we actually go out and get. And the more, 15 years ago, the more we start traveling the state to go pick up wine and meet winemakers and then, take these back roads and see these rolling hills, the more we developed a passion for our state in general. There's so many cool back roads to these wineries, and then you find state parks and city parks and historic sites, and you end up seeing Missouri in a different way, which makes it really easy to be intentional about staying local with everything we do.
I was going to say the same thing. That it really helped us develop a way better appreciation for what our state has to offer. That you didn't, as growing up here, you don't really think of those things. And then when you leave the state and then come back and then do what we do, you get to see that. And you see that people in our state have just as much passion for their wine as they do in California or Oregon. You see artisans and craft people and distillers and brewers and everybody that has the same passion you think that maybe California does. They have it here too. It just doesn't stick out as much as California. But it definitely helped me for sure, solidify my opinion of our state and how much pride I have in it.
It's so awesome. Well, congratulations to you guys. That's, so cool that you've thrived this long in that setting and through your commitment to staying local, both in your location and your product. It's so, so, so cool. But also, like, maybe as business thrives, consider expanding. We'd love a second store somewhere in closer to the city. I'm just throwing it out there.
We have an opportunity for you.
Right.
That's right. All right. Well, last thing I have here is if you guys have any parting advice for people that have listened to this whole thing and they're still like, I don't know. I also don't know if I can get down with Missouri wine. What's your parting words to people that are still hesitant to try it? Give me your best sales pitch for it.
I would say come see us, because we would take the time to sit and talk and share kind of the passion that we've developed. And then, I think once it's almost contagious. If you've ever been with friends that have a passion for something and then they share it with you, then all of a sudden it's easy to find your passion in that. And so just come on up and say hello and let us know you saw us on the podcast, and give us an opportunity to kind of do what I did with you and your friend when you came up, and, just start to open up that conversation and allow you to sample wines in a very comfortable, non-pretentious way where you can all of a sudden go, wow, okay, this is pretty good. It may not be, like you said, it may not be a California cab, but this wine is actually well made and it's excellent.
And like I said, go see us, but also go out to another winery and vineyard. And I say that on purpose because it's best to go to a winery that's also a vineyard, so you have the whole setting of the vines, the wine, everything all around. That's what helps the whole ambiance. But come see us for sure.
Yes, and I can second that. That is true. Your energy and your passion for wine is very contagious, and I now have a fun new party trick to take with me the rest of my days of surprise. It's Missouri. Yes. So, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And for those of you that missed out, the name of their shop is Willow Springs Mercantile, and it is in Excelsior Springs. You have to go check it out. Jim, Daphne, thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you again, Rachel. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll be up. Thanks so much for joining us today. If we haven't already, let's connect. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Rach the Realtor KC. We're back right here every Thursday morning with a new guest on Connecting KC. See you next time.